Welcome to the Shadow Signal, the frequency of the unknown. I'm Josh Rutledge.
And I'm Stefan Gearhart. Together we dive deep into high strangeness, UFOs, cryptids, the paranormal, psychic phenomenon, and the hidden truths that echo just beneath the surface.
Somewhere between reality and myth lies the signal. Can you hear it?
Tune in. The Shadow Signal is live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another spooky edition of the Shadow Signal. I am your host, Stefan Gearhart, joined as always by the voluptuous Josh Rutledge. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's a great day. We're into November. We're knee deep, neck deep. I don't know, temple deep,
Naked. We're
whatever,
naked.
into the veil, the thinning of the veil. Which, a lot of people, I think that it only happens on Halloween night, but it's a period of time. It runs
Yeah, it's a period of time. And it's kind of like the moon. It wanes and waxes, as does the veil.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I love your waning and waxing little dance there that you did. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Like if I do it fast enough, it really messes up the background.
Yeah, that really, like, your camera can't keep up.
No.
I gave, that reminds me, I gave my family a cuttlefish hug. Have you ever given a cuttlefish hug?
No.
That's when you put your arms out like this and you just flop against them like.
Oh, I bet you they love that.
So, anyways, yeah, it's a great time of the year. The days get shorter, which means there's more opportunities good to go out at nighttime, not when it's, the wee hours of the night, and actually experience a lot that the night has to offer. So,
and it's cold out here, brother. It's in the 40s today. It's going to be the high of 36 tomorrow here in Kentucky. So,
wow.
It is 71 on Saturday.
Yep. It was 61 last night when I went out for a sky watch out in the desert. I had my long jeans on and my hoodie because I've adjusted to the desert temperatures. But
yep,
yeah,
I have to bust out my winter coat for tomorrow morning. It's going to be 24 in the morning when I take my daughter to daycare. So
yeah, I do not miss those. I do not miss those mornings at all.
Nope, me either.
So, anywho.
Anyways, yeah, we got a fantastic episode. We're going to be talking about Lizzie Borden. I'm super excited. But before we get to all of that, the haunting and all of that stuff, let's get into a little bit of interrupted transmissions.
Interrupted transmissions.
All right, so I bring this up because I only have a really small thing, but I know you had some really cool stuff happen to you last night. So if you want to talk about that.
Yep. So last night went out for the Phoenix MUFON put on a Skywatch event just kind of east in the Superstition Mountains. And I went out for that, and I led the meditation. We did like a CE5 type contact experience. And we saw some stuff. There was in the northwest, about maybe 60 or so degrees off the horizon. There was some like bright bursts of light. Like it was very random. It would burst, and then a few seconds went by and it would burst again. And then like a little further over in the night sky where it would burst again. So we observed it 3 times in 3 different parts of the night sky, but always in that same direction. And then, towards the 60-degree mark. So that was one. We also recorded actually some light orbs moving around again towards the northwest, and these would get really bright, and then they would just kind of fade away. And what's really interesting is you can't see them on night vision. So usually, like if they're satellites, for example, they flare up to the naked eye, but then on night vision you can still see the satellite as it's moving across the sky. These even disappear for night vision. So that was pretty crazy. Then the entire night, even after, so I led the meditation, which means that oftentimes I'm not participating in the meditation. I do the grounding exercises that I lead all meditation participants through, and then I, start them on the exploratory path, if you will. But during that entire sequence, I kept feeling like out of the corner of my eye, I was seeing something standing beside me. And it actually, even after everybody got done with the meditation, I still, like, I would see something walk up and stand next to me, and I would turn to talk to someone who was standing there, only to find no one was standing there.
Wow.
So then, fast forward probably about 3 hours we were out there. So this is around 10:15 or so. We were wrapping up. The last little group of people that were there were about seven of us. And someone requested for there to be a kind of a group photo taken. So I gave them my phone to take a long exposure photo with. So it took 4 seconds to take the photo.
It's like the old days.
Yep. And when we went back and reviewed the image that was taken, there is an entity standing in the shot with a photo bombed our group photo.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. You showed me that. That was wild.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little video about it later and put it up on my YouTube channel. So if anybody's listening to this wants to see that, you can check out my channel. It's Mystic Journeys 44 on YouTube, and you can see that picture as well as the other one that I captured in my backyard not too long ago. But in that video that I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you how to take photos like that where you can capture the same thing. So, anyways,
Nice.
because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do. Share with the people, let the people
Right.
use you. So
So, is that it? Do you got any more?
that was pretty much it for last night. Um, And then the only other thing is I continue to see our cat Kitty Whiskers that passed, almost a month or month and a half ago now. He's still kind of active in the house.
Mhm.
So, that's pretty cool. He's hanging around. So,
Yeah, that's basically mine. Last night when I was doing laundry, I was coming up the basement stairs and the door was cracked, and he would always have his nose, Kenobi, my dog, would have his nose poking through to see me because he didn't like going downstairs, but he would wait for me, and I swear I saw him
mhm.
like just there waiting for me to come up the stairs.
Yeah.
Totally felt that. But aside from that, these aren't really interrupted transmissions, but they're two cool things I wanted to touch on that I thought was really cool. Is I just watched the new Frankenstein movie. I wouldn't watch it if I were you because it's got a lot of gore in it, but it's an excellent film. Guillermo del Toro. It's just absolutely beautiful. I had to get that off my chest because it's really
Okay.
good. The second thing is I'm reading Joe Hill's new book, who is Stephen King's son. He's writing a book called King's Sorrow, and it talks a lot about the Philip experiment in it.
Mm,
And in fact,
interesting.
that's what they do is they conjure up a dragon out of essentially out of thin air, like
Mm,
using the whole idea of the Philip
yeah.
experiment and things like that. Like it's wild, it's cool stuff, and it was great to read that. Knowing about it already was kind of
Yeah.
cool, you
Well,
know.
and we just talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the last episode, we had just talked about the Philip. So
Yep,
were you
because
reading the
this
book?
yeah, this one guy's granddad was in like MK Ultra and all kinds of
Mm,
stuff like that, and got all these old videos, and they conjure up a Japanese war criminal or something that they created because they thought the darker the better.
mm,
Named like Hondo. I can't remember what it says, General Hondo or something like that. Like that's what they
yeah.
did. And but the main protagonists they conjure a dragon, and it's really cool.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
but yeah, they using the
thanks.
Philip experiment.
Yeah. Well, thanks for ruining the book for everybody.
No, it's this is a stand size book, and
Okay.
I'm only in like the first 20 chapters.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
It's not a giveaway. It's on the back.
Okay.
But I thought it was cool because they used the
Yeah.
Philip
Yeah.
experiment
No,
as
it's really
their
cool.
route for that.
And along the same vein, I was picking up my kids from school last week, and there was a person wearing a Hellfire Club shirt. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Hey, cool shirt." And he's like, "Oh yeah, are you digging the new season?" And I'm like, I just said yeah because I don't, I don't want to like how. But I started looking and I've noticed a lot of people wearing Hellfire Club. So
Mm-hmm.
it comes from Stranger Things.
Right.
So I bet you people don't even realize that there was a Hellfire Club in Ireland. Uh,
Yeah.
that shirt is really based off of.
That's funny that that's what you thought of. Yeah, it's their Dungeons and Dragons club,
Yeah.
is the
So
Hellfire Club.
I thought everybody was just all of a sudden really into the Hellfire Club from Ireland. But
That's hilarious. Or the Hellfire Club from X-Men, one or the other.
yeah. So But anyways, interrupted transmissions is popping off then for a little bit.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to see, what the next couple months will bring in. So yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right. Well, let's move on then to our psychic word of the week.
And now, the psychic word of the week.
All right. Psychic word of the week comes from the Oh, you can't see it. Encyclopedic Dictionary. Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary from June G. Bletzer, PhD. Rest in peace, honey bear. I love you. Even though I know you're behind me. I've never met you. This week, I went back to flipping through the pages again.
Yeah.
And I landed in page 581 and looked down and I saw a term called spirit drapery. Spirit drapery. I thought that was really interesting. In parentheses, it says ectoplasm materialization. That's for the first definition. First definition says a cloth effect that covers and protects the unformed parts of a materializing person, used to satisfy the modesty of this person, drawn from the actual clothing of the medium in ectoplasmic substance, disintegrates rapidly in the air when the session is over. So it almost makes you wonder if this is where we get that idea of a sheet being a ghost.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, let's see what number 2 says. Number 2, simple flowing garment or robe worn by an etheric world intelligence when clairvoyantly showing him or herself to the medium. The intelligence feels more graceful and comfortable in the simple attire as earth plane clothing has long ago been discarded. Takes less energy to show him or herself in simple plain clothing than in garments with collars, buttons, belts, trousers, or shoes, etc. And this energy can be put to a more practical use. Interesting.
It's interesting because when you think about how often, ghosts in movies and things are portrayed, they're usually wearing whatever they were wearing at the time of their death.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, you and I have talked about the possibility that spirits appear to people different ways. Like, we could both see the same spirit, but I may see it as a child and you may see it as an elderly person.
Right.
It's just however the spirit wants to portray themselves. So,
especially an intelligent haunting.
right. So it just makes me also the notion or idea that there is it kind of the idea that there has to be a cloak worn because to be naked or raw is somehow
socially unacceptable.
Right. It kind of harkens back to the concept of why do we wear clothes to hide our shameful nakedness. I mean, it just
right.
So that whole definition really kind of, I think, pulls a lot of that religious undertone into,
especially the first one, because the first one even says that it's the medium's clothing. Like, so it's the medium that's saying, hey, you better put some clothes on because nobody wants to see your ghibli bits.
Right. Or, and then in the first definition, they also use the word modest, like they're somehow ashamed of being there standing naked.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's an interesting concept, and you're right. Maybe it is where we get the use of sheets to display or represent.
That's what
ghosts.
I think.
Yeah.
I think that for sure. Because anything dealing with that old school mediumship harkens back to, the late 1800s and 20s, the spiritualist movements and stuff like that. So,
well, and speaking of spiritualist movements, there's some spiritualist activity in the Borden case.
Ooh, I figured as much because that was what in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Yeah. So, not surprised at all. Well, then let's go ahead and let's move on. Let's move on to the main topic.
All right. So, you had come to me about, or rather, I came to you and said, "Hey, what do we want to talk about next?" Because we've had a couple of really good shows lately, but let's start pushing the boundaries a little bit. And so you thought maybe looking at the Borden murders, might be an interesting topic that folks would be interested in, as well as the subsequent hauntings as well
Right,
of the
because
resident.
people go to the Lizzie Borden house. My ex girlfriend Lizzie, who has her name spelled the same way, Lizzie, obsessed with Lizzie Borden, went and stayed in the house because she wanted, to see if she could see the ghost of Lizzie
Yeah.
Borden. So,
So let's back up a little bit. So I spent couple days researching. I basically put together some profiles of who the Bordens were. So let's see if we can
mhm,
build, the people that we're going to be talking about, the untimely death of.
yeah,
So Andrew Jackson Borden was the father. He was born in 1822. Um, he was very, very demanding. um, he demanded order, obedience. He was very wealthy, but demanded frugality. One of the things, their house that they lived in didn't have running water, didn't have
mm,
electricity, didn't have indoor plumbing. And that was really uncommon for people of their stature at the time that they were living in. Most people had indoor plumbing at least put in, so they didn't have to continue to use outhouses.
right. This was in Fall River, Massachusetts, correct?
Yep, that's right. Um, so he was emotionally distant. He valued control over connection. He was wealthy, like I said, but refused basic comforts, so it kind of made him like status conscious or miserly type
Ugh.
individual.
I mean, with a name like Andrew Jackson, I
Yeah.
mean, not surprising.
Um, so he was a moral absolutist, so rigid religious and social code.
Yeah.
He saw thrift as a virtue.
Oh God.
Um, Patriarchal, he expected complete dependence from his wife and daughters. It's funny. I often describe, or Kristen even will describe my deceased grandfather as the patriarch of the family.
Mhm.
But if you think about patriarchal in this definition or this context, I would not consider him a patriarch.
Right.
Um, so just be careful of the labels you put on people. So he likely was had obsessive compulsive disorder.
Mm,
That kind of underlying need for control, fear of waste,
right.
likely had a lot of anxiety over maybe losing his status or moral respectability or the ability to keep his family in line. And he basically ruled, creating kind of this atmosphere of fear, silence, and emotional deprivation. So in that way, in modern terms, we would call that an abusive relationship,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so next up, we have the girl's original birth mother. So her name is Sarah Anthony Morse Borden. She was born in 1823 and she died in 1863. So she died, long before the murders took place.
Yeah.
She was the
A
Yeah,
couple years after Lizzie was born.
right. So she was the deceased biological mother of Emma and Lizzie. She had frail health, um, and people think that she actually probably had some genetic conditions, and most people were surprised that she was actually able to have children at all.
Mm,
She was constantly, though, sick when she wasn't pregnant. And this probably also goes back to a time when that was kind of the main role, the expected role of women or wives, they're there to give birth to offspring to further the lineage of the great
right.
father, all this kind of stuff. So, um, but She's often, I think, equated to being kind of like the Holy Ghost of the household, where she was that, motherly figure that remained for Emma and Lizzie, although she died when Lizzie was very young. But her death probably created, kind of that original trauma, that maternal void, that really helped to shape the daughter's, entire psychology.
Right.
So Emma apparently made a promise to her mother right before her mother's death that she would take care of Lizzie. And this is often talked about in the reflection of why Emma stayed with Lizzie during the entire ordeal that we're going to get to in a moment, is because of that sense of being the protector for Lizzie.
Yeah.
All right, so a few years after, so if you recall, the mother died in 1863. So a few years after, Andrew remarried in I actually didn't capture when they were married on this. So this profile is just of people. We'll get to the remarriage in just a moment. So remarried a woman named Abby Durfee Gray, and then she took on the name Borden.
Durfee.
And she was born in 1828. And she was compliant, almost treated as more like a domestic caretaker than a partner in a marriage. She was kind of the anxious peacemaker, trying to keep the peace between, her husband and her stepdaughters, but really lacked any type of emotional, influence on either one of those individuals.
Right.
Neighbors said that she walked softly to avoid Andrew's displeasure. So
Ugh,
again,
gross.
probably an abusive,
Yep.
relationship.
A
Um,
schmuck.
Yep. So she likely internalized that powerlessness, and kind of exhibited that in kind of avoidant coping, just keeping quiet rather than confronting tension. So we move on to Emma Lenora Borden, the oldest daughter. She was born in 1851. She was the caretaker, also a moral conscious. Her kind of core traits were that she was duty bound and obedient, promised her dying mother to protect Lizzie, reserved and devout. She was deeply religious and socially proper. She avoided confrontation and preferred to withdraw as opposed to.
Mm.
And she was really ultimately torn between loyalty to her father and compassion for her sister.
Oh.
She probably developed some dependent and perfectionistic tendencies. I'm having trouble talking today, where compliance became the methodology of survival.
Right. And who knows? She may have picked up that OCD from
Yeah,
her father.
it is very, very, very possible.
Mhm.
She was, though, considered kind of the stabilizing force of the household, even though she was, perpetually silent.
Yeah.
She was that uh, constant, if you will, in the household.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on just a little bit to now talking about um, the time period leading up to the murders. So in 1887, Andrew gave Abby's half sister Sarah Whitehead a home on 4th Street. And Lizzie and Emma were both furious that he was giving away their inheritance.
Mm.
Um, and to try to equalize the gift, Andrew gave ownership of their mother's home on Ferry Street to the sisters. But the sisters said that wasn't good enough, and he ultimately bought that home back from them for $5,000 when they just wouldn't let it go.
Right.
And 5 grand at that time was, that was quite a bit of money. So, um, in 1891, the family just continued to grow increasingly divided. Lizzie and Emma rarely take meals with Andrew and Abby. Their sisters actually lock their bedroom doors even during the day. And neighbors and friends note that there was just a strained household relation.
Yeah.
And then in June 1892, Lizzie has some pet pigeons that she keeps out at the barn.
Right. So she's got like what do they
Some
call those?
a pigeon coop, right? Yeah,
A
it was
roost
roost, yeah,
or a coop,
whatever.
yeah.
Oh, coop, whatever. Not the four door, the coop.
Not the DeVille.
So Andrew thinks though that by Lizzie keeping these pigeons that she's inviting boys to come and spend time with her. So he gets mad about that and he takes a hatchet and kills all her pigeons.
Well,
Like
good.
brutally kills all her
Well, yeah,
pigeons.
with a hatchet, that'll.
Yep. Lizzie, of course, is enraged and doesn't speak to him for weeks. Then in July 1892, the sisters spend 2 weeks in New Bedford visiting friends, trying to distance themselves from the household tension. So there's just a lot of, I would imagine, the old adage, you can cut the tension with a knife. Maybe you
Yeah.
can cut it with a hatchet. I don't know. But it was definitely there in the house.
So at
So,
this point, she's about 32,
yeah.
trying to
And
figure that out.
it is not uncommon, right, for women of this era to stay in their family
Right.
home until they are
Married.
married, and then they go
Right.
off and begin their life of servitude
Right.
in that period of time to their husband. So, but and then Emma, I think, was like 9 years older than Lizzie, so
Mhm.
she's around 40 at this time as well. So the week of the murders, Monday, August 1st, 1892, Andrew and Abby fall ill after dinner. All family members, including Bridget, who was the live-in maid, complain of stomach distress. Abby fears poisoning, but the attending physician later attributes it to spoiled mutton left on the stove for multiple meals.
Right.
Wednesday, August 3rd, 1892, Lizzie allegedly visits the druggist Eli Bentz at Smith's Pharmacy, attempting to buy prussic acid as hydrogen cyanide, claiming it is for cleaning a sealskin cape. The pharmacist refuses to sell it without a prescription, and his testimony later becomes part of the prosecution's circumstantial case. That evening, John Morse, Lizzie and Emma's maternal uncle, arrives unannounced and stays overnight in the guest room. Bridget is ordered to wash the exterior windows the next morning, a heavy chore in the August heat.
Ugh.
Emma leaves for Fairhaven to visit friends, and she was not in the house during the murders. On Thursday, August 4th, this is the day that the murders took place. At around 6 a.m., Bridget wakes up and begins preparing breakfast. The meal includes mutton, because apparently they hadn't had enough after getting sick 2 days. Johnny cakes and coffee.
Ooh, some Johnny cakes.
They were leftovers from the previous day. Andrew, Abby, and John Morse eat together. Lizzie declines breakfast, saying she isn't hungry. At around 8:45 a.m., John Morse leaves the house to visit relatives that are nearby, promising to return for lunch. Abby begins upstairs chores, and Bridget begins washing windows outside. At around 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., Abby goes upstairs to make the guest bed in the room where Morse had slept. According to forensics, the blood splatter analysis, as reconstructed decades later, she faces her killer near the bed. The first blow strikes the side of her head. She turns and falls face down. The attacker then delivers 19 15 more blows with a sharp-edged weapon, her blood begins to coagulate before Andrew's murder, confirming she was killed earlier.
Jeez.
Bridget is outside washing windows. Lizzie's whereabouts are unverified for 20 to 30 minutes. Then around 10:45, somewhere around 10:45 to 11:10 a.m., Andrew returns from his morning errands. He'd gone to the bank and post office, and Bridget lets him in. The front door locks jam briefly, causing her to mutter an Irish curse overheard by Lizzie. Lizzie offers to remove Andrew's boots, claiming Abby has gone out to visit a sick friend.
Convenient.
Andrew lies on the parlor sofa, still in his suit coat. Bridget goes upstairs to rest in her attic room. Within 15 or 20 minutes, Andrew is struck 10 or 11 times in the face and head with a sharp object.
Jeez.
The first blow likely killed him instantly, but the other times I just were due diligence.
Yep, crimes of passion.
Yep. So at around 11:10 a.m., Lizzie calls from downstairs, "Maggie, come quick. Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him." Bridget rushes down and finds Andrew's body on the sofa. Lizzie appears calm, claims she heard a groan, and found him dead. When neighbor Mrs. Churchill arrives to help, Lizzie says she fears Mrs. Borden has also been killed. Abby's body is found upstairs face down between the bed and the wall. So the immediate aftermath, this is from around 11:15 a.m. until the evening. So the neighbors summoned Dr. Bowen, the family physician, who pronounces both dead. The police arrive soon after. Kind of initial observations, there are no signs of forced entry, no blood trails leading outside, blood confined to the victim's immediate surroundings. A hatchet head without a handle is found in the basement, cleaned and dust covered. Lizzie's demeanor noted as oddly calm.
One of the things that I read that was interesting about Andrew's attack was that one of his eyes had been split cleanly in two, suggesting he might have been asleep when he was attacked, but just still gross.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, he did lay down on the sofa, so that would make sense. The investigators' impressions is that Abby had been dead longer, like I said, around 90 minutes or so before Andrew, and only Lizzie and Bridget were home. So then the evening of Thursday, August 4th, the police remain on site, and Lizzie gives conflicting statements. First, she says she was in the barn loft looking for lead sinkers. Later, she says she was in the kitchen ironing handkerchiefs, because everybody irons handkerchiefs. Also claims she thought her stepmother had gone out.
Right,
Friday,
she did say that earlier.
She did. Friday, August 5th, autopsies performed on both victims in the dining room. Stomachs preserved for analysis. No poison found. Lizzie officially becomes a suspect, though not arrested. On Sunday, August 7th, Alice Russell, which is Lizzie's friend who stayed to help, witnesses Lizzie burning a light blue Bedford cord dress in the kitchen stove. Lizzie claims it was ruined by paint during housework. Alice later reports this to police, suspecting evidence destruction. The police had already failed to catalog all of Lizzie's clothing, so this burning permanently removed a key piece of physical evidence. So Monday,
which
August.
Means she hid it somewhere.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
I found the original testimony from Bridget, and she talked about how when Lizzie came down for breakfast, she was wearing one blueprint dress, and when she came down, or when she called out that someone had killed her dad, she was wearing a different blue dress. It was similar but different. Yeah. So, on Monday, August 8th, Lizzie gives her first formal statements. She does so without counsel present. She contradicts herself multiple times regarding her location, when she last saw her stepmother, and whether she heard noises or saw anyone enter. Her odd composure, memory lapses, and shifting story heighten suspicion. Excuse me. So then, during that initial investigation, they decide that based on all this information, there's enough to indict, or not indict, right? Indict's not the word, to charge Lizzie with the murder of her father and stepmother. Um, let's see. Scroll down here a little bit. Conducts a request. Okay, August 11th, 1892, Lizzie is arrested.
A
After
good
that,
date, August 11th.
August 11th, 1892. Yep, that's my birth. Well, I wasn't born in 1892.
You're old.
Yeah. I'm the oldest young guy ever.
Yeah.
So after that initial inquest concludes, the district attorney orders Lizzie arrest. She spends one night in Fall River Jail, then transferred to the Taunton. Sorry, it's Taunton, the Taunton Jail.
Taunton.
Yeah.
Nice.
I wonder if
Hey,
inside
I bet you she liked being in jail though. And yes, it probably is warmer on the inside.
lukewarm.
Yep. I bet she was probably excited though, because they probably had running water and
Yeah.
plumbing and three squares, three hots and a cot.
Three hots and a cot. Yep. And that is a woman's facility, and she remains there for 9 months while awaiting trial.
9 months.
Bail was denied due to the severity of the charges.
Right.
Okay, so in the fall of 1892, in the spring of 1893, there were some pre-trial developments. A grand jury was convened in November of 1892 to review evidence. They hear about the burned dress, the broken hatchet, and the drugstore poison attempt, as well as the pharmacist's testimony. And on December 2nd, 1892, the grand jury indicts Lizzie for 2 counts of first-degree murder. June 5th through the 20th of 1893, the trial is in New Bedford. This is in Bristol County Superior Court, New Bedford, Massachusetts. I've got all the judge and prosecution and defense, but I won't read all those names off for now. The trial lasted for 2 weeks. It drew national attention. One of the first media sensationalized murder trials in U.S. history. Over 70 witnesses testified. And the courthouse was packed daily with spectators and reporters. So the key evidence presented was the hatchet head that was found in the basement. No blood or tissue residue, so it was inconclusive. Lizzie burned the light blue Bedford cord dress, admitted as evidence, but unproven to be the same dress worn during murders. Attempted to buy poison, so druggist Eli Benson's testimony, it was actually ruled inadmissible because it wasn't corroborated. The alibi inconsistencies, so Lizzie gave 3 different versions. It damaged her credibility, but it was not proof. There was no visible blood on Lizzie, so that strengthened the defense's case. And her calm, detached demeanor after the murders was interpreted as innocence or shock.
Right.
So,
did you hear? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I don't know if you talk about this or not, but the other axe murder trial, or the other axe murder that took place. Did you talk about that?
No, I don't have that.
Well, I'll tell you about it because it's interesting. Okay. So there was another axe murder that occurred in Fall River 5 days before Lizzie Borden's trial began. This time, the victim was Bertha Manchester, who was found hacked to death in her kitchen. And the similarities between the Borden murders and the Manchester murder were striking and noted by jurors. There was a Portuguese immigrant, Jose Correa de Melo, who was convicted of Manchester's murder, but he was determined not to have been in the vicinity of Fall River at the time of the Borden murders. So just kind of interesting that a similar, murder takes place. Makes you wonder, right?
Well, and what's
That
real,
all adds to what the jurors are thinking.
right. Well, and Bridget gave testimony though that so again, Bridget is the live-in
The
maid,
maid.
right? And so in her testimony, she, like I said, she got up, she made breakfast.
Right.
Then after the uncle left, she went outside to clean the windows. Because Andrew was so controlling, he required that all the doors to the house be locked at all times, and he kept the key.
Right.
So while she was outside washing the windows, the doors were locked. When she went back inside, the doors were locked. She also talked about how there was a screen door over, in front of the main door for both entrances to the building. Her room was in the attic above the kitchen area, and she would say that when that screen door would close, it would make a huge thunking noise as it slammed
Right.
against the case. She said she did not hear any of that during her time that she was resting upstairs after cleaning the windows.
Yeah.
So that also attributed to them kind of ruling out the possibility that it was a home invasion. That and
Right.
the lack of any type of forced entry. So when Andrew came home, Bridget opened the door for him, then she locked it back, and then she gave him the key. So unless the killer had already entered the house somehow and was just
Right.
hiding out in the house, yeah. The
Yeah.
other thing I couldn't find, and this would have been interesting to know, apparently Andrew kept the key on his person. And so what I couldn't find in any of the testimony or stuff given was if they still found the key in his pocket, like
Right.
at the time. But that was probably not the key element to be looking for. Sorry. I did
Boo.
I didn't mean to do that. It just worked out that way. So ultimately though, the no physical evidence, no eyewitnesses, unreliable police work, and the defense portraying Lizzie as a dutiful Christian daughter incapable of such cruelty, she was found not guilty.
It's crazy.
The jury deliberated for 90 minutes and found not guilty. So
Wild.
now, so publicly she was legally free, but socially she was forever condemned.
Oh yeah.
So in the summer of 1893, Lizzie and Emma returned to Fall River, but could not bear to stay at 92 Second Street, where the murders had taken place. They purchased the grand home on French Street named Maplecroft, and Lizzie begins using the name Lisbeth A. Borden. And she actually starts signing her any correspondence, anything with as Miss Lisbeth A. Borden. The local press calls the verdict of miscarriage of justice. Fall River's elite ostracize her, and stores refuse her patronage. Neighbors cross the street to avoid her. Servants report harassment and vandalism at Maplecroft.
Yeah.
Emma supports Lizzie initially, but withdraws over time as Lizzie grows more social and independent. And by 1905, Enda moves out permanently after Lindsay's friendship with an actress draws scandal.
Yeah. That I've heard.
Um, so, moving on then a little bit to the after, after the trial stuff. So, in the immediate aftermath, like I said, in the acquittal, they buy this old, kind of fashionable residence at 306 French Street in Fall River. And this is in the city's affluent Hill District. Lizzie named the home Maplecroft and began signing letters, like I said, as Miss Lisbeth A. Borden, symbolizing a rebirth of herself. They installed modern plumbing, a telephone, and electrical lighting, all luxuries that her father denied to.
Refused. Yeah.
They employed several servants, including a live-in maid, chauffeur, and cook. They owned fine furniture, art, jewelry, and custom clothing, and attended theater, church, and social clubs, but was largely shunned by high society.
Yeah.
Fall River's elite ostracized her completely. Neighbors whispered that she was playing the lady with blood money. And children reportedly taunted her from the street with a little rhyme that I don't have the full rhyme of, but it was like Lizzie Borden took an axe, and then
Yes.
imagine where it goes from there.
Yeah. I remember that. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41.
Which is not accurate to the case at all. I mean,
No.
come on, kids, do better.
Oh,
Anyways,
apparently there's a second verse. Hold on.
okay.
Andrew Borden now is dead. Lizzie hit him on the head. Up in heaven he will sing. On the gallows she will swing.
Interesting. While she was at the Maplecroft estate, from 1895 to 1905, Lizzie sought connection and stimulation outside of Fall River's spiritual society. She traveled frequently to Boston, Providence, and New York. She developed friendships with artists and actresses, including Nance O'Neill, a prominent stage star, and she began hosting intimate gatherings at Maplecroft, including dinners, music recitals, and small parties. Of those small parties, nothing documented, but the local lore is that she also had many seances and
Ooh,
hosted mediums for spiritualistic activity.
nice.
Um, Many say that the guests tried to contact the spirits of Andrew and Abby during candlelit seances conducted by Lizzie herself.
That's cool. I mean, like we talked about, that was very popular at the
Yep,
time. So,
yep. Um, and then so we move on to the Nance O'Neill friendship. So the friendship was deep and controversial and possibly romantic. Lizzie hosted Nance and her theatrical friends at Maplecroft. The conservative Fall River community viewed this as scandalous. Rumors of improper companionship circulated, and this appears to have been the final straw for Emma, who moved out in 1905, stating, I cannot live with her people and her ways any longer. So, um, after Emma left in 1905, Lizzie never reconciled with her sister.
aw,
From 1905 to her death in 1927, Lizzie lived alone at Maplecroft. She maintained close relationships with a few loyal servants, pets, and kept a low profile. She inherited substantial wealth from her father. She lived comfortably rather than lavishly. In her later years, she suffered from chronic gallbladder and heart problems. She occasionally appeared in the news for petty lawsuits over property lines and tax disputes. And despite her isolation, she made charitable contributions under pseudonyms, including donations to animal welfare causes. And on June 1st, 1927, Lizzie died of pneumonia, age 66, at Maplecroft. Her funeral was small, attended only by a few servants and distant cousins, and she was buried in the family plot at Oak Grove Cemetery near her father and stepmother.
right.
Her
And
estate, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just saying, and I believe next to her sister.
Yeah, I haven't got to her
Yeah.
sister's stuff yet,
Oh,
but
okay.
yes. Her estate was valued at $250,000 then, which is the equivalent of $4 million today.
Shoo wee.
She left money to friends, servants, and the Animal Rescue League of Boston, but she left nothing to Emma.
Jeez.
So, Emma from that time. So, like I said, Emma lived at Maplecroft. She handled most of the financial and domestic management, quietly avoiding public contact.
Right.
While Lizzie experimented socially, Emma remained deeply religious and reclusive, occasionally attending church but rarely entertaining. She disapproved of Lizzie's growing independence, describing her sister's behavior as unseemly. Like I said, in 1905, the sisters deteriorated, the relationship deteriorated, and Emma ultimately moved out. Um, and she moved out in May 1905. She told a friend, the happenings at the house that caused me to leave, I cannot reveal. It is too humiliating. She moved first to Providence, Rhode Island, and then later to Newmarket, New Hampshire, living under a false name. Emma lived modestly but comfortably on her inheritance. She never married or reconciled with Lizzie. She remained active in her local church, but refused all interviews about her sister. She reportedly continued to donate quietly to women's charities and religious causes. In her final years, she was nearly blind and in poor health. On June 10th, 1927, just 9 days after Lizzie, Emma
Jeez.
died. She didn't even know about her sister's death when she died.
Jeez. Jeez.
She was buried in the Borden family plot beside her parents and sister. Her estate was smaller, around 200,000, which is still 3.6 million
Yeah.
dollars
Nothing to
in
scoff
today's
at.
money. Much of it was left to charity and distant relatives.
Phew.
So that is effectively their life and the
Mhm.
trial and the murders. I read all of the documented court transcripts, the testimonies. It's I'm a little conflicted
Yeah.
because you know the murder of her pigeons by her dad with a hatchet. It really does feel like a you know you got mine, I'm gonna get yours type situation.
Right.
Um, the fact that they got sick from probably legitimately from food poisoning, and that maybe a couple of days later, Lizzie saw that as an opportunity maybe to then poison them for real and have it be blamed on food poisoning. So
Right.
there's a lot of, but it's all circumstantial. So I'm up in the air on whether or not Lizzie Borden actually killed her dad and stepmother.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of good movies and documentaries, and apparently next season's Monster that right now they did Ed Gein. Next season's supposed to be Lizzie Borden, so
Mm.
it'd be interesting to see.
So moving on then to the hauntings
Yeah.
that occur. So the house today at 92 Second Street in Fall River, Massachusetts, is has been titled the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast Museum. Was built in 1845, and of course, it was the site of the double murders.
Mhm.
And it has been restored to period accuracy and operated as a museum and an overnight bed and breakfast since the 1990s.
Yep.
The house has been investigated by hundreds of paranormal researchers, journalists, and psychics since the 1970s.
And my friend Lizzie.
Yeah. I'm sure, and many, many guests. So, the kind of core categories of reported phenomena are residual manifestations. So, these are just energy footprints, if you will. These are experiences that appear to replay the events of August 4th, 1892, almost like an emotional recording that's stuck in a loop. Common reports are footsteps pacing the second floor above the parlor at the approximate time Abby was murdered, so around 9:30 a.m. The sound of a body collapsing in the guest room, followed by silence. Soft female crying heard from Lizzie's former bedroom. And then visitors waking at around 3 a.m. to the feeling of being watched or touched, particularly in the murder rooms. Then we have the intelligent or interactive activity. These accounts suggest responses to investigators, communication through EVP, manipulation, that sort of thing. So the notable claims are EVPs captured saying, "Help me," upstairs, or Abby, most often near the guest bedroom. Dowsing rods, spirit boxes, and or REM pods have responding to direct questions about the murders, often correctly identifying names or times associated with the event. Guests in the parlor where Andrew died, reporting the sensation of a heavy male presence, described as disapproving, cold, or controlling.
Right.
Objects moving, such as doors closing on their own, lights flickering after questions about the murders, and silverware shifting audibly in the dining room during EVP sessions.
Mm.
So here's some of the apparitions that have been seen. Um, around from the 1940s onward, often on the second floor, there's an apparition of a female in 19th century clothing near the top of the staircase or the guest bedroom, thought
Tis
to
her
be
spirit garment.
Abby. Right, it's her spirit cloak.
Yep, spirit garment.
I like cloak better.
Well, that's not what June G. Bletzer said.
Well, she didn't know about cloak then. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
But if you wear your cloak, are you cloaked in suspense?
Suspense. Oh,
Actually, I think suspense is what ghosts wear to keep their pants up.
yeah. No.
I'm sorry.
No, no,
No. Anyways, um, there is an elderly man in a dark suit seen sitting in the parlor chair where Andrew was killed or walking toward the front door. This is from the 1950s onward. And then a young woman or a shadow figure standing near Lizzie's old room or basement stairs from the 1970s onward. Some sensory experiences. So there's sudden drops in temperature localized to the murder rooms. Often reported a metallic or iron smell in the air, interpreted as kind of like the blood energy, if you will, of the space.
Gotcha.
Perfume scents of like lavender or rosewater near the second floor hallway, especially after midnight. And then touches on the shoulder or hair, usually described as gentle and maternal rather than aggressive. Pets and service dogs brought on tours have been observed growling or avoiding the parlor and the second floor guest room. Cats reportedly fixate on the upper stairwell landing following an unseen presence. So some of the kind of we'll call them famous investigations that have occurred. So the TAPS or ghost hunters,
Mm-hmm.
they did investigations there in 2005 and 2008. They caught EVPs of a female voice, an unexplained temperature change, and footsteps on the second floor. Ghost Adventures on the Travel Channel in 2011 had multiple EVPs, strong EMF spikes, and investigator reported being choked in Andrew's room.
Well, of course, because I'm
Yeah.
sure they were antagonizing them,
I'm sure they were. Yeah,
as they do.
as they do. I mean, I that's why I refuse to even go to his museum in Las
I
Vegas
know.
because
I don't want to go either.
I don't want to support him in any way, shape, or form.
Nope.
Somebody needs to take on his cloak. Anyways, Kindred Spirits on Travel Channel. In 2017, they used a spirit box session suggesting female voice identified as Lisbeth, an emotional response near the guest room. And then just local historians and mediums from the 1970s to present, consistent emotional impressions of sorrow, judgment, and unrest rather than violence.
Right. I like Kindred Spirits, man. That's the one with Chip Coffee.
Yeah.
I like Chip.
Often kind of, the kind of energetic interpretation is there's a male energy that is authoritarian and heavy and controlling, often interpreted as Andrew. The female energies are kind of a layered emotional tones like grief for Sarah, fear for Abby, and rebellion for Lizzie. The house's energy mirrors the living. Investigators entering with fear or antagonism experience aggression. Those entering with curiosity feel sadness and empathy.
Right.
So kind of a chronological account of haunting reports. From 1892 to 1900, neighbors report strange noises after the house is vacated, and servants claim to hear footsteps. From the 1920s to the 1950s, private owners note restless nights and seen figures on the stairs. 1970s, renewed public interest, paranormal groups begin formal investigations. 1996, the house is reopened as a bed and breakfast. Guests report nearly nightly activity. And then 2000s to present, There's a frequent EVPs, physical sensations, and unexplained noises captured by multiple independent teams.
Man, we need to grab Santosh, make that an astral stew trip.
We totally do. Um, so that was the original, where the murders took place. I also though looked up any type of activity that happens at Maplecroft, which
I
is the
was I
house,
was hoping you covered
yeah,
that because I was going to ask about it.
which happened, which is the house they bought after the trial.
Mm-hmm.
So Maplecroft was built around 1889 to 1890, and it was purchased by the Borden sisters in 1893. The architecture style is Queen Anne Victorian. It has 6 bedrooms, ornate woodwork, bay windows, servants' quarters, the whole kit and caboodle, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Lizzie considered it her freedom house. Excuse me, naming it Maplecroft, and like we talked about before, signing correspondence as Miss Elizabeth A. Borden. Because no murders occurred here, investigators describe its energy as melancholy rather than violent. There have been reports, though, of soft footsteps on the main staircase when the house is empty, faint piano music late at night, brief bursts of floral or rosewater fragrance, often near Lizzie's former bedroom, sudden cool drafts or pressure on the chest when discussing the trial or murders, recordings of a woman's voice saying, "Leave me" or "I'm home." Um, Rare but subtle apparitions of a faint female silhouette in a light colored dress near the bay windowed study. And there have been reports of books or doors found slightly shifted after tours. But part of me is like, is that just somebody in the tour group just messing with, just messing with
Right.
the next group?
Right.
Kind of the emotional tone of that house that's reported by visitors is that it's a calm but heavy. There seems to be a protective feminine presence. Several sensitives claim to sense a woman who guards her home. And there is occasional sadness reported, particularly in Lizzie's bedroom, interpreted as lingering isolation. Um, so the local Fall River Historical Society from 1970s to 1990s, the staff noted cold spots and faint footsteps during restorations. The ghost hunters investigated this location in 2008, and they found minor EMF anomalies and subdued atmosphere compared to the murder house. Uh, Independent psychic mediums from 2000s to present have consistently described a single female energy, intelligent but withdrawn. No aggressive or malevolent
Yeah.
manifestations have been substantiated.
Yeah. Well, she
Uh,
wouldn't be aggressive,
no,
unless you were her stepmom or dad.
right. Well, and I've also heard that it could be the spirit or energy of Sarah, who felt like she needed to reside with her girls to comfort them after the ordeal. So
Oh,
Sarah
yeah.
was, their birth mother, so yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Um, so if you think about it from the kind of the psychological aspect, you know, 92 Second Street was a place of containment. All right. They weren't allowed to move freely. They weren't allowed to have extravagant things like indoor plumbing. They were, controlled in all aspects of their life. Whereas Maplecroft was like a rebirth, and they could
Right.
be free in how they express themselves. Although it sounds like Emma was not on board with how much Lizzie wanted to express herself. So,
Right.
but yeah,
Right.
I mean, I think it would be interesting to, if we do make it an astral strew out, we go out there, outing is the word I was looking for. We should definitely visit both locations. So, but
Yeah,
anyways,
absolutely. I'd love to check out both of those.
so that's what I have for the Borden murders and subsequent hauntings.
And the subsequent hauntings, I love it. Because that's one thing you don't get to see as much They always just touch on the murders, and I'm glad we were able to touch on the hauntings because I
Yeah.
think that's a substantial part of the whole package. So
Yep. It's
cool, man.
yeah.
All right.
There's definitely a lot. There's definitely a lot of energy trapped in that house. And
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of the Astral Street episode we did where we talked about if you were a medium that wanted to release that energy from that house, uh,
Yeah.
you know, would you be stepping on the toes of the bed and breakfast who makes money off
Right.
of that energy being there? So that was an
Right.
interesting kind of ethical conversation
Yeah.
on Astral Stew. If anybody hasn't watched that episode, you should go check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So,
It is the ethics of ghost hunting and mediumship and all
yeah.
that from
So
the spiritual side of things,
right. Yeah.
the unliving.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Josh, man. That was really good, man. And I just even more makes me want to, take deeper dives and go watch some movies and documentaries and all that stuff and visit that place myself. If anybody else has had any experiences, been to the bed and breakfast, let us know. Let us know in the comments. We're always curious to know what everybody's been through.
Yep.
And of course, to harken back to interrupted transmissions, if you guys have stories, not just Lizzie Borden, but anything,
Mhm.
you can email us or drop us comments. We'd love to share those stories. We always have since the Fearscape days. We love sharing those stories. What's the email they can send those to?
It's the Shadow Signal Podcast at gmail.com.
Easy. So send us any ghost stories, any UFO sightings, cryptid sightings, or anything like that. Any spooky stories you may have heard of that are go back. One of my residents apparently had his great, I think it's his great grandfather or whatever, was cursed by a witch,
Hmm.
and his cows died and all kinds of subsequent stuff. And there was an article in the Courier Journal about it back in the early 1900s, and he gave me the article. It was way too long to read on here. It's like 3-4 pages long.
No.
But it's pretty cool. But yeah, he was cursed by a witch. Like,
Wow.
it's really interesting. So even if your family has a story, let us know. We'd love to hear stuff about that. It's
Yep. And
interesting.
it doesn't just have to be witches and ghosts. We want to hear anything
Yeah,
that that doesn't fit, let's say anything that doesn't fit into
a norm.
normal society.
Yeah, we want to hear it. So,
So
all right, Josh, let's go ahead and get out of here, man. Thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to the Shadow Signal podcast. We are out of here, and we will see you guys next month. This has been Stefan. Stay close to the shadows and listen for the signal.
this has been Josh. The truth is now.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.